Okay, let's paint a picture. I want you to imagine a very specific scenario. It's Tuesday night.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. And, well, let's be honest. Technically, it's Tuesday, but it feels like it should be Thursday. It's 11 p.m. You're sitting there. The only light in the room is that, that blue glow from your laptop screen.
Yeah.
Your coffee went cold about 2 hours ago, and your eyes are starting to physically burn.
I think every single founder listening to this just felt a phantom headache. We have all, and I mean all, been there. It's a very, very specific kind of exhaustion.
Oh, absolutely. It's that wired but tired feeling, right?
Yeah.
But here's the kicker. You aren't staring at that screen because you're designing the next game-changing product feature.
Nope.
You aren't drafting that visionary strategy document that is going to blow the board away at the next quarterly meeting. No.
Yeah.
You are coding 3 invoices that came in as PDFs. And for some reason, for some godforsaken reason, they will not copy-paste into your accounting software.
It's always the PDFs. Always.
And you're trying to reconcile an expense report from a lunch meeting you had last Tuesday, the one where you definitely lost the physical receipt. Now you're trying to remember if you paid with a corporate card or your personal Amex.
And that little bead of sweat starts forming because you know the accountant is going to ask for it. The panic starts to set in.
Exactly. And just to add a little bit of spice to the misery, you are mentally drafting an email to chase a client in Manchester who is now, 14 days late on payment? And you're trying to find that perfect tone between, I need the money, and I'm a professional.
You don't want to sound too desperate, but you also don't want to sound too aggressive. It's a nightmare. It is the perfect Instagram versus reality moment of being a founder, isn't it? We see the funding announcements, we see the big launch days, but we don't see the 11:000 p.m. invoice reconciliation.
It is the dark underbelly of the dream. Because tomorrow morning, the sun is going to come up and your actual job starts. You have to go pitch investors, you have to lead the team, you have to drive the strategy. But right now, in this moment, you are an accountant, a collections agent, and an admin assistant all rolled into one very, very tired human being.
It's the classic founder's trap. And what is so fascinating to me, looking at the research we've gathered for this deep dive, is that while it feels like a personal failure, like, oh, I'm just bad at time management, or I should be able to handle this, the data shows it's actually a structural economic problem. It is a feature, not a bug, of the way early-stage companies are built.
And that is exactly what we are unpacking today. This isn't just a deep dive into how to hire a secretary. I mean, that is way too simple for us. And frankly, it's a bit 1990s. We are going to look at the hidden economics of startup administration. We are going to break down why the standard advice, just hire someone, usually backfires spectacularly.
And we are going to explore a very specific operational model that is emerging, particularly out of South Africa, that completely changes the math on this whole problem. We are going to be looking very closely at a case study of a company called VAConnect. And for everyone listening, that's pronounced VAConnect.
VAConnect. Got it.
And we'll use them to understand the fundamental difference between the gig economy approach, which, everyone knows, and the managed service approach, which is something totally different.
I have to say, looking at the research for this, the difference is night and day. It really challenges the way we all think about remote work. I always sort of assumed outsourcing just meant, finding the cheapest person you can find on the internet.
That is the common misconception.
Yeah.
But today we're talking about infrastructure. We were talking about wellness programs. We're talking about happiness audits, which sounds fluffy, I know, but it is actually deeply data-driven, and we're going to talk about why specific time zones matter a whole lot more than you probably think.
So if you are that founder staring at the invoices at 11:00 p.m., or if you are just curious about how modern companies are scaling their operations without, going bankrupt, stick around. We're going to reveal why just hiring someone often fails and how you can actually fix the math.
Let's dive in.
Okay, so let's start with the pain. We have to quantify this because I really think a lot of founders, they lie to themselves about how much time this stuff actually takes. We minimize it, don't we? We say, oh, it's just a few receipts. It'll take me 10 minutes.
They absolutely do. It's a survival mechanism. I'm convinced of it. If you actually sat down and admitted how much time you were wasting, you'd probably just quit. But the London School of Economics put out a study in 2023 that really kind of pulls the curtain back on this whole delusion.
Okay, what did they find?
They found that early-stage founders spend between 22% and 31% of their total working hours on administrative tasks. And here's the key phrase: tasks that generate zero competitive advantage.
Zero competitive advantage. Wow. That is a stinging phrase, isn't it?
It hurts, but it's completely accurate. I mean, think about it. Processing an invoice does not make your product better. It doesn't make your customers happier. It doesn't improve your retention metrics. It just keeps the lights on. It's what you'd call hygiene work.
So what does that percentage, that 22 to 31%, what does that actually look like in a real week?
Well, if you translate that into actual time, you are looking at roughly 12 hours a week. 12 hours vanishing into a void of data entry.
12 hours, that's it. That's a day and a half of work every single week. That is a massive, massive amount of lost productivity. Imagine what you could do with an extra day and a half every week.
Right. You could be talking to customers. You could be working on the next product sprint. You could be sleeping. And here is where we really need to do the opportunity cost calculation. This is where the math starts to get a little bit scary.
I love a good scary math equation. Lay it on us.
Okay, so let's be conservative. Let's value a founder's time at 7,500 pairs per hour. Now, obviously, if you are in the middle of closing a massive deal or building a core piece of product architecture, your value is much, much higher, probably hundreds of pounds an hour. But let's just stick to 75 pounds as a baseline for high-value strategic work.
Okay, 75 pounds an hour. That seems reasonable. It's essentially the rate of a mid to senior consultant.
Exactly. Now, if you are spending, say, 120 hours a month, which is the average cited in a 2024 Oxford Economics report for small business admin on these low-value tasks, you are essentially destroying 9,000 pounds of value. Every single...
Hang on. Stop there for a second. 9,000 pounds a month?
A month, yes. That is 108,000 pounds a year in opportunity cost. Now, you aren't writing a check for that amount, so you don't feel it leaving your bank account. It's not a line item on the P&L. But that is 108,000 pounds worth of product development or sales strategy or investor relations that simply, it just didn't happen. It couldn't happen because you were busy categorizing receipts in zero.
That puts a whole new kind of brutal perspective on the whole DIY or scrappy founder mindset, doesn't it? I think we often feel like, oh, I'll just do it myself. I'm saving money. But you're saying that doing your own invoices is actually the most expensive way to get them done.
It is, without a doubt, the most expensive administrative labor in the world. You are taking a CEO-level asset, the most valuable brain in the company, the person who holds the vision, and you are deploying it on entry-level data entry. It's a grossly, grossly inefficient allocation of capital. It's like hiring a Michelin star chef to wash the dishes.
They can do it, sure.
Of course they can do it, but is that really where you want them spending their time and energy?
And it's not just the time, is it? It's the brain power. I feel like whenever I have to switch from, strategy mode to admin mode, I physically feel like I lose IQ points.
You do. That's it exactly. It's what we call the terrible accountant paradox. Founders are usually terrible at this stuff, not because they aren't smart, but because of the context switch.
The context switch. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so shifting your brain from visionary strategy, thinking about the next 5 years, the competitive landscape, to why doesn't this receipt from Starbucks match this bank line item? It's just cognitively expensive. It drains your battery. It literally uses a different part of your brain.
It totally breaks your flow.
Completely. There's a great quote in our source material from Sarah Chen, a London SaaS founder. She said, and I'm paraphrasing a bit, "I spent 6 months convinced I was being efficient by doing our invoicing myself. Then I tracked my time for 2 weeks, 23 hours, on invoices and receipts. I nearly cried."
23 hours in 2 weeks. That is basically half a work week. Just gone.
Exactly. It's the illusion of efficiency. You think, oh, this will just take 5 minutes. But it takes 5 minutes to do the task, plus the 20 minutes it takes to get your brain back into that deep work state afterwards. It shatters your focus.
Okay, so we have established beyond a shadow of a doubt that doing it yourself is a disaster. It's expensive, it drains your energy, and you're probably not even that good at it. So the logical next step is, okay, I get it. I need help. I'll hire someone.
Right. And this is where most people hit a massive wall. They look at option A, the local hire.
And this is where we run into what the research calls the high cost of stability, right? Because I looked at the numbers for a junior admin in the UK, and the sticker price is, well, it's not cheap.
No, it is not. If you are hiring a competent junior financial admin in the UK, so someone who actually knows their way around Xero or QuickBooks and can write a professional email, you are looking at a salary band of roughly £28,000 to £35,000 annually.
Which, for a bootstrapped startup or even an early-stage funded one, that is a significant chunk of change. That could be your entire marketing budget for a quarter. That could be another developer.
It is. It's a major line item. But here's the thing. That is just the salary. That isn't the true cost. We have to look at what's called the hidden tax of employment.
The hidden tax. Okay, break that down for us. What are we actually paying for beyond that 30 grand salary?
Okay, so on top of the salary, you have national insurance contributions, which are roughly 13.8% for the employer. You have mandatory pension contributions. You have to buy them equipment, a new laptop, software licenses, maybe a desk and a chair if you have an office. You have training costs to get them up to speed.
Right, of course.
When you load all of that up, that 28,000 pounds a year hire is actually costing the business somewhere between 38,000 pounds and 42,000 pounds a year.
Ouch. So you're committing to 40 grand a year for someone to handle invoices. That is a heavy, heavy pivot from I'll just do it myself for free.
It is, and it gets worse because now you have to factor in the kicker, the turnover trap. Administrative roles, especially in small companies, are notorious for high churn.
People don't stay in those jobs forever.
They really don't. The Staffing Industry Analyst report from 2024 shows turnover rates exceeding 32% annually for these specific roles.
Wait, 32%? So you're telling me there's a 1 in 3 chance that person leaves within the first year?
That's exactly what the data says. So think about the cycle. You spend weeks recruiting, interviewing, you finally hire them, you spend 4, maybe 6 weeks training them, showing them where all the files are, teaching them your weird internal naming conventions for folders.
Yeah, but training, it's so time-consuming.
It is. And then 8, maybe 10 months later, poof, they're gone. They get a better offer, or they get bored, or they decide they want to become a yoga instructor in Bali, and you are right back to square one. But now you are 30,000 pounds poorer, and you're the one doing invoices at 11 p.m. again.
Okay, so option A is expensive, and it's super risky.
Yeah.
So then everyone, naturally, pivots to option B, the gig economy, the Upwork solution, the I'll find someone cheap online move.
Yes, the Upwork trap, as I like to call it.
Right. You go online, you search for virtual assistant, you find someone in the Philippines or Eastern Europe, and the rate is, say, $8 an hour, and you think, I have hacked the system. I am a business genius.
The allure is undeniable. It is so powerful. The unit economics look absolutely spectacular on paper. You do the math, $8 times 10 hours a week. Wow, I can solve this entire problem for $80 a week. But there is a massive management tax that nobody ever calculates.
The management tax. Tell us about that.
A Harvard Business Review study, a really famous one, found that unmanaged remote workers, so that means freelancers who don't have a manager or a support structure, they operate at only 60% to 73% of the productivity of an in-house equivalent.
So you're paying for an hour, but you're only getting, what, 40 minutes of actual productive work?
Pretty much. And you are spending your own valuable time managing them. This is the key insight for me. You aren't outsourcing the responsibility, you are just outsourcing the keystrokes. You still have to explain the task in minute detail. You have to check the work, you have to fix the errors.
So if you spend an hour managing and correcting the work of an 8-hour freelancer, and your time is worth 75-hour, that freelancer just cost you $83 for an hour of work.
Exactly. That freelancer just became very, very expensive.
That is such a good way to put it. You're outsourcing the keystrokes, not the responsibility.
Okay.
And then there is the thing that I saw all over the forums when we were researching this, the ghosting phenomenon. I was reading through some Reddit threads on Entrepreneur, and the stories are just nightmares.
It's a very real issue. The data we have suggests that somewhere between 15% to 25% of freelance engagements just end in silence. You send the task, you send a follow-up, and nothing. Just crickets. They just vanish.
And if that person has your bank login or your sensitive client data, that is absolutely terrifying.
It is a massive security risk. And even if they don't ghost you, you're still dealing with the context gap. A freelancer who is juggling 10 different clients, they just don't know your business. They don't know that vendor A always sends invoices late, or that client B needs a specific reference number on their purchase order. So they make mistakes, or they have to ask you a million questions, which just brings you right back to the management tax.
So we are completely stuck between a rock and a hard place. The local hire is too expensive, and they might just leave. The freelancer is cheap, but they're unreliable, and they end up taking up all your time anyway. It feels like there's no good option.
Exactly. And this is precisely why the managed service model has emerged as this kind of third category. This is where our case study, VAConnect again, that's pronounced VAConnect, comes into the picture.
Okay, so let's define this really clearly. Because when I hear the phrase virtual assistant, my brain immediately goes to freelancer. I think of that person on Upwork. But you're saying this is different.
Fundamentally different. VAConnect is not a marketplace. They are not a middleman. They aren't an introduction agency like a recruiter. They are an employer.
An employer?
Yeah.
Okay, so the VAs, the virtual assistants, they work for VAConnect not directly for me as the client.
Correct. VConnect hires them, they train them, they vet them, and they manage their performance. The client, that's you, the founder, gets a dedicated team member who feels like part of your team. But technically, legally, and operationally, that person is employed by VConnect.
So if they ghost, it's VConnect's problem to solve, not mine.
Precisely. If someone calls in sick, VConnect provides backup or manages the workflow. If someone needs training on a new piece of software, VConnect handles it. And because they are a proper employer, they have built-in infrastructure. But before we even get to the infrastructure, which is the really cool part, we have to talk about the geography. Because they are based in South Africa.
Now, this was really interesting to me. I, like most people, I think, usually associate outsourcing hubs with places like India or the Philippines. Those are the giants of the BPO, the business process outsourcing world. Why South Africa? What's the advantage?
There are two massive, massive advantages, time zone and culture. Let's start with the time zone. South Africa is on GMT +2.
Okay, GMT +2. Let's map that out for everyone listening.
If you are in the UK or most of Europe, they are on essentially the same schedule as you. Maybe an hour or two difference depending on daylight savings. Their morning is your morning. Their afternoon is your afternoon. Contrast that with Asia, which is maybe 7 hours ahead, or the US West Coast, which is 8 hours behind.
Right. With Asia, you send an email at the end of your day, and you get a reply when you wake up the next morning. It's that constant 24-hour lag loop. You ask a clarifying question, you have to wait another 24 hours. A simple task that needs a bit of back and forth can take a whole week.
Exactly. With South Africa, it's real time. You can send a Slack message to your VA at 11:00 a.m. your time, and they reply at 11:02 a.m. That speed, that immediacy, is absolutely crucial for agile startups. You just cannot wait 24 hours to find out if a critical invoice was sent or if an important client meeting was booked.
And what about for our listeners in the U.S.? How does that work?
It works surprisingly well, especially for the East Coast. The South African afternoon overlaps with the New York morning, so you get that crucial 3 to 4 hour crossover window to sync up, answer questions, and set the priorities for the day.
Okay, that makes sense. So the time zone is a huge practical win. What about the cultural alignment you mentioned?
This is more subtle, but it's just as huge. English is a primary language of business and government in South Africa, so there's no language barrier. The accent is also generally very neutral, which is a big benefit for any client-facing roles, like if you want them answering phones or responding to customer queries.
So it feels more like a local interaction.
It does, but it's deeper than that. The business norms, things like accounting standards, professional etiquette, the way emails are structured, are very British influenced. It's a much smaller cultural leap than working with someone from a totally different business culture. It just reduces friction.
So you get the local feel without the local cost.
Yeah.
Which, of course, brings us to the numbers. We promised we'd fix the math. How does the pricing for a service like this actually stack up?
So a basic package from VAConnect, the starter one, begins at 12,000 Rand per month.
12,000 Rand. Okay, for those of us who aren't checking currency exchanges every day, what is that roughly in pounds sterling?
It fluctuates, of course, but as of now, that converts to about £550 per month.
£550 a month. Wait, let's be super clear on this. What do you get for that? How many hours?
That entry-level package gets you a block of 40 hours per month, so about 10 hours a week. But if we break it down to a simple hourly rate to compare apples to apples, the fully managed rate comes out to roughly £13.75 per hour.
Okay, let's put that on the spectrum we built. The unmanaged, risky freelancer was maybe £8 an hour. A full-time local UK hire, once you fully load the costs, is over £20 an hour.
Exactly. This slots right in the middle. You pay a premium over the Wild West freelance rate, that extra £5 or so per hour, but that's what you're paying for the management, the training, the reliability, the infrastructure. But you still save massively compared to the in-house option. You're effectively cutting your true labor cost in half compared to hiring someone locally.
And frankly, for £550 a month as an entry point, that is incredibly accessible even for a very early-stage, bootstrap startup.
It is. I mean, in London, that's less than the cost of a single desk in a co-working space for a month.
Okay, so the price is right. The time zone is a huge plus. But I'm still a little stuck on the management tax problem. If I hire this person, even through a service, am I still going to have to spend hours and hours training them and checking their work? Because that was the ultimate failure point of the Upwork model.
This is the crucial differentiator, and this is where we need to look at what they call the infrastructure of reliability. This is the engine that makes the whole managed model work where the gig model
A
fails.
secret sauce, if you will.
The secret sauce, exactly. VAConnect, again, that's VAConnect, has built these very specific proprietary systems to solve the quality control and management issue. The first one is called Vivarsity.
V-varsity. Let me guess. Pronounce V-A-varsity.
You got it. And you can probably guess from the name, it's basically like a school. It's an internal, proprietary, Udemy-like training platform. When you hire a VA through them, that VA has constant access to this platform for continuous upskilling.
So what are they learning on there? Is it just software?
It's everything.
Yeah.
They're trained on the nuts and bolts, Xero, QuickBooks, Salesforce, you name it, but also on soft skills, professional communication protocols, time management, how to write a perfect follow-up email.
And I'm assuming the client, me, I don't pay for the time they spend training on V-varsity.
No, the agency pays for it. So if your VA needs to learn the latest update to a software tool you use, they do that on VConnect's time, not yours. You aren't paying for their education. You are paying for their output.
That is a huge shift. Usually with a local hire, I'm the one paying for them to go to a training seminar, and I'm losing a day of their work on top of the cost of the course.
Exactly. Then the next piece of infrastructure is something they call VAPI.
VAPI. Okay, that sounds like some kind of tech integration, like an API.
It does, but it actually stands for Virtual Assistant Performance Indicator. It's what they describe as a happiness and accountability engine.
A happiness engine. Okay, you said this would sound fluffy. What does it actually do?
It's a two-way feedback loop managed through software. It systematically tracks the satisfaction of the client, that's you, but just as importantly, it tracks the satisfaction and engagement of the VA.
Why does the VA's satisfaction matter so much to me? I mean, respectfully, I just want the work done well.
Because unhappy, isolated remote workers leave, or they burn out, or they slack off. By actively managing the VA's happiness, their workload, and their sense of connection, VAConnect is essentially building a remote company culture. It prevents that feeling of isolation that leads directly to ghosting and high turnover. If they are happy and feel supported, they stay. And if they stay, they learn your business better and become more valuable every single month.
That makes perfect sense. Retention equals efficiency. You're not constantly retraining new people.
And that leads to the third pillar, which they call atomic energy.
Okay, now we're definitely getting into superhero territory. What is atomic energy?
It's their corporate wellness program. We're talking about providing access to diet plans, exercise programs, even mental mobility coaches for their VAs.
For virtual assistants. That's
Wow.
really unusual.
It is extremely rare in the outsourcing world. Usually, the business model of outsourcing shops is to treat people like disposable cogs. Burn them out, hire the next one, keep the margins high. This model is the complete opposite. It treats the VA as a high-performance human asset that needs to be maintained and supported to deliver peak performance. It's an anti-burnout strategy built right into the company's DNA.
Which brings us back to retention. Does all this stuff, the training, the happiness audits, the wellness programs, does it actually result in stability? Or is it just a nice perk?
Well, the data they provided says yes. They boast a 98% retention rate for their VAs over a 14-month period.
98%. That is absurdly high.
Right.
I don't think any industry has that kind of retention.
It's an incredible number. Now, compare that to the 32% turnover rate for local admin hires we talked about at the beginning. The difference is just staggering. You are essentially buying guaranteed stability.
So let me get this straight. You have a stable long-term team member who is trained by someone else, managed by someone else, supported by a whole infrastructure, and costs about half as much as a local equivalent.
That is the value proposition in a nutshell.
Okay, I'm sold on the theory. I really am. But let's get tactical. I want to know exactly what these people do on a day-to-day basis, because admin is such a broad, vague word.
Let's focus on the primary use case from our source material. Financial administration. Let's go right back to that Tuesday night scenario.
The invoice and receipt nightmare.
Exactly. So here is a typical workflow for a startup. Weekly, your VA is processing, say, about 15 invoices. They're matching 8 to 12 receipts to the corresponding bank lines. They're doing the full bank reconciliation in your accounting software.
So all the stuff that makes you go blind from staring at spreadsheets?
All of that. And then monthly, they are handling the financial close. They are generating the aged receivables reports. That's a fancy way of saying, here is a list of everyone who owes you money and is late, and they are setting up the payment runs for your approval.
Now, here's a big question. How long does it take to trust someone you've never met in person with this level of access because handing over my bank and accounting software logins it's nerve-wracking.
It is, and it should be. They have a process for this, what they call the timeline of trust. It's a phased approach.
Okay, what does that look like?
So in month 1, it's all about knowledge transfer and shadowing. They're learning your systems, but you're not letting them fly solo yet. They might prepare an invoice run, but you're the one who hits send.
So I have to invest some time up front. It's not instant.
You do. We have to be really honest about that. This is not magic. But by month 2, they are processing independently, and you're just doing spot checks, reviewing their work at the end of the day or the end of the week. By month 3, the dynamic is supposed to shift. This is what they call the proactive partner phase.
The partner phase. What does that look like in practice?
That's when they start chasing late invoices without you having to ask them to. That's when they send you a Slack message saying, hey, I noticed a weird charge from this vendor. Is this correct? They stop being just a task doer and start becoming a proactive member of the team who is looking out for the business.
That is the absolute dream for any founder.
And there is a really important compliance angle here, too. If you are a UK startup, you have specific accounting standards and VAT rules to follow. VAConnect specializes in this. Their team is trained on these standards. They know what audit readiness looks like.
Which is crucial if you're planning to raise a Series A or any kind of funding.
It is huge. If an investor starts doing due diligence and your books are a complete mess, they'll either lower your valuation or just walk away from the deal entirely. Having professionally maintained books isn't just good hygiene. It's actually a core part of your fundraising strategy.
Now, it's not just finance, is it? The sources we looked at mentioned these growth accelerator roles.
Yes, absolutely. Because once you solve the foundational admin problem, you can apply the exact same model to roles that actively grow the business. Things like marketing assistants to handle social media scheduling, basic content creation and managing email lists, or sales assistants for lead generation, data enrichment, and CRM hygiene.
Ugh, CRM hygiene. The only thing worse than invoicing is cleaning up a messy Salesforce or HubSpot database.
It is the punishment for success, isn't it? But it's the perfect task for a detail-oriented VA. They can do it flawlessly. The model even extends to more specialized tech roles. They mention having software engineers and project managers available through the same managed service structure.
And then there was this other concept that stood out to me, the EVA, the Executive Virtual Assistant.
Right. This is for the founder who is really starting to scale fast and is drowning in complexity. The EVA isn't just an assistant. They're designed to be a single point of contact, an orchestrator.
An orchestrator. How does that work?
So imagine you, the client, have a dedicated EVA. But that EVA has access to a whole backstage team that VAConnect provides. Designers, copywriters, web developers, tech support.
Yeah.
You only ever talk to your EVA. You just say, hey, I need a 10-slide presentation for the investor meeting on Friday. The EVA then goes and orchestrates the copywriter for the content and the designer for the visuals to get it done. You don't manage the individual contributors.
So it's like having a chief of staff who comes with their own pre-built department that you don't have to hire or manage.
That is the perfect analogy, and the packages for this kind of service reflect that higher level of complexity and value. The sources mention tiers like the Forge at around $4,380 a month, all the way up to the Apex at $8,800.
Which sounds like a lot of money until you realize you're basically hiring an entire operational department for that price.
Precisely. You are replacing the fully loaded costs of 3 or 4 full-time headcounts with one single predictable managed service fee.
I want to zoom out for a second to the human story here. Because VAConnect isn't just some faceless algorithm or a piece of software. There's a founder behind this too, right?
Yes, a woman named Karen. She founded the company all the way back in 2008, and it was originally called LimeTree Consulting.
2008, wow. So she's been at this for a long time. This isn't a newfangled startup.
Not at all. She rebranded to VAConnect again, VAConnect in 2014, specifically to double down on this managed model. And her mission, which comes through in the material, wasn't just about providing cheap labor to the West. It was about making virtual assistants a genuine, sustainable career path in South Africa.
That's a really important distinction, isn't it? In the gig economy, it's a gig. It's temporary, it's precarious. She's trying to build actual careers.
And that philosophy aligns directly with the quality of the output. I mean, people who see a long-term career path with opportunities for growth and training are always going to work harder and be more committed than people who are just looking for the next one-off gig.
And this all ties so neatly into the broader macro context of 2024, doesn't it? The world has really changed for startups in the last couple of years.
It has completely changed. Venture funding is down roughly 30% from the peak. The growth at all costs era of free money is well and truly dead. Now, the metric that matters more than anything else is runway.
How many months of cash do we have left in the bank until we die?
Exactly. And this is where the math we did at the very beginning becomes not just an efficiency calculation, but a survival strategy. If you can save £2,500 a month on admin costs by using a managed VA instead of a more expensive local hire, you are actively extending your company's runway.
£2,500 a month is £30,000 a year. For an early stage startup, that could be an extra month, maybe 2 months of life.
And that extra month could be the difference between hitting a critical milestone that allows you to raise more funding or just going bust. There was a critical stat in that LSE study we mentioned. Founders who successfully maintain 20-plus hours of strategic high-value work per week are 3.2 times more likely to reach their next funding milestone.
Wow. That is the stat of the day for me. 3.2 times more likely to succeed if you just protect your strategic time.
So outsourcing your admin isn't just about, I don't like doing invoices. It's about, I need to increase my odds of survival and success.
Okay, so let's say there is a listener right now who is nodding along furiously. They're looking at their own stack of invoices and thinking, get me out of here. This is me.
Yeah.
How do they actually do this? What does the onboarding process look like?
The process with a company like VAConnect is designed to be low friction, but very high context.
Okay, so step one.
Strategy first. You hop on a Zoom or a Google Hangout with them. And it's not a sales call. You don't just say, I need a typist for 10 hours a week. You have a strategic discussion about your business, your pain points, your goals. You discuss fit. You discuss culture.
Culture fit is an interesting one. How can you possibly measure culture fit with a remote assistant over Zoom?
It's about communication style. Are you the kind of founder who's very direct, just the facts? Or are you more chatty and collaborative? Do you live in email or do you live in Slack? They actively try to match you based on personality and working style, not just on skills.
So if I'm a just the facts, bullet points only kind of person, they won't match me with a VA who wants to chat about the weather for 20 minutes at the start of every day.
Exactly. That's step 2, the matching. Then step 3 is the meet and start. You have a kickoff call with your matched VA, you set the initial KPIs, you open up the communication channels, and you get going.
And I want to play devil's advocate here for a second. We need a management reality check.
Please, let's not sugarcoat it. This is important.
Is this really set and forget? Can I just sign the contract, hand over the keys, and never think about my invoices again?
No, absolutely not. And any agency or service that tells you that is lying to you.
Yeah.
There are hidden costs nobody talks about, even in a great model like this.
Okay, like what?
Your own management time. Even with a fully managed service, you need to invest some of your own time, probably 1 to 2 hours a week, especially at the beginning. You need to be available to answer questions. You need to provide clear feedback.
Things like, hey, you categorized this expense wrong, or hey, going forward, please prioritize this vendor's invoices.
Right. And there is what I call tool proliferation. You use Slack. They need a login. They use their own tool like Bitrix24. You might need to learn it. You use Xero. They need access. You have to spend some time setting up all the permissions and integrations.
And documentation. You have to write things down.
So crucial. You can't just dump tasks on them with no context. You need to provide templates. You need clear process documents. Now, a good service like VAConnect provides the framework and templates for this, but you have to customize it. You have to be the one to say, in my company, we handle client receipts this specific way.
So the big takeaway here is it's a partnership, not magic.
It's a relationship, and all good relationships require some maintenance. And this is the absolute T, an hour or 2 of high-level management is infinitely cheaper and more effective than doing all the work yourself.
1 hour of management versus 12 hours of mind-numbing data entry. I will take that trade any day of the week.
That is the math that works.
Okay, let's wrap this up. We have covered a huge amount of ground. We've gone from the depths of Tuesday night invoice despair to the heights of South African operational efficiency. For the listener, what are the key actionable takeaways?
I think there are 3. First, you have to realize that the admin trap is a real strategic threat. It's not just an annoyance, it is an active killer of startup potential.
Second, the managed service model, specifically what we saw with our case study of VAConnect, that's VAConnect, offers a genuine third way. A middle ground. You don't have to choose between the incredibly expensive local employee and the risky, unreliable freelancer.
And third, geography is strategy. South Africa, in this context, offers a Goldilocks solution. The time zone works, the culture works, and the costs starting at that 12,000 Rand mark makes the economics truly viable for almost any business.
It really does feel like a cheat code for building your company's operations.
It is infrastructure for growth, not just a cost center.
So here is the final thought. We always like to leave you with something to chew on, a final provocative question.
I want to pose a question to every single founder listening right now. If you find yourself doing your own invoicing at midnight tonight, I want you to stop and ask yourself, who is actually doing this work?
Well, me. I'm doing the work.
Right, but you are the CEO. You are the founder. So effectively, you are paying the most expensive employee in your company, yourself, to do the absolute lowest value work in the company. You aren't saving money by doing it yourself. You are overpaying for data entry by a factor of 10.
That hits hard. You're hiring a CEO to be a junior bookkeeper, and you're paying them a CEO's salary to do it.
Fire yourself from that job. Immediately.
I love that. Fire yourself. So listeners, here is your challenge for this week. Audit your time. For just 1 week, track it religiously. See how many hours you actually spend on things that do not directly grow your business. And then ask yourself, honestly, if you can afford to keep doing them.
The answer is usually no.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. Go reclaim your time. We'll see you on the next one.